In this video, which is the 11th in my series on how to make a 3D space shooter game in Unity, I fixed some bugs in the radar display that I added in the previous video. I also add back the shields to the enemy ship and fixed an issue that caused with the collision avoidance. I also fixed the health bar to make it so that it would always rotate to face the player and that the health bar would fill in the correct direction. And I added a health bar to the shields. I made some other tweaks and optimizations. We add velocity and angular velocity to the player projectiles to make it feel more natural when you're chasing an enemy ship and shooting at them. I also added a targeting reticle to make it easier to aim. So grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, and follow along as I teach you how to write a 3D space shooter game in Unity. The first thing I want to fix is an issue with the radar screen. I'll demonstrate it for you here very quickly. I noticed this when I was testing. You can see there's 4 blips on the screen because I have 4 enemy ships surrounding me. You see how one of them just disappeared? Another one just disappeared. Another one just disappeared. So I'm getting very inconsistent results. Even though all 4 ships are within range, it's inconsistently displaying them on the radar screen. And it's also not correctly displaying that height line, which I will demonstrate. If I go into the code, I have a few different logic errors. And to easily see the logic errors, actually it would make sense if I was to split this logic to display the height lines out into its own method. Yeah, so I think I'm going to do that. So basically all this code here is for displaying the height lines. So everything after this return statement here. So what I want to do is, that's the only thing using this vector 3 scale too. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to move it down here. And then I'm going to select all of this and I'm going to use the refactor extract method. And since it's only going to be called from within this draw target blips, I'm going to extract it to a local function. And I'll put it at the end of this. I think that's all I need. Okay, so in draw target blips, okay, why is it called get value? I wanted to call this draw height lines. And I don't need a return statement here. I don't need to make an if. All right, so part of the logic problem I've got is in here, I was saying if pitch is approximately 0, return. Well, the problem with that is I'm in the middle of this for loop where I'm iterating through all of our targets. And the first target or the second target or the third target, if any of them meet this if condition, I'm going to break out of this loop and not draw the rest of the targets. So really, I want to do that in here. So if I'm drawing height lines for a particular blip and its pitch is 0, meaning it's not above me or below me, then I'm just going to return. I don't need to do anything. And I had another return statement in here, which I really didn't need. I can actually make this an else. So I think that will fix those logic errors. The other issue that I had was with the way I was displaying the height for these guys. If you recall, I'm using this pitch variable here, and I'm calculating that. That's in calculate blip position. I'm calculating it by taking our local direction and subtracting 90 degrees. Well, local direction is calculated by taking the target's position and subtracting our position, the player position, and multiplying that times the quaternion inverse of our rotation. Well, the problem is right here. You see, I'm already, when I calculate target position, I'm already subtracting the player's position from the target position. If I was just taking this raw target position here, then this would be fine. But I'm not. I'm taking this value that I've already subtracted the player position from. I think it's okay that I'm dividing it by the radar range. But I think what I want to do here is just get rid of this minus and just do that. And that should, I believe, fix both of those issues that we were seeing. So let's go back into the Unity editor. Let it recompile the scripts and hit play. And take a look at what we see on our radar screen. I see all 4 ships. Those height lines look good. I'm not seeing any blips disappearing. So I'm thinking that that all looks good. I think I fixed all those issues. Okay, I want to tweak a few more things. This progress bar on the fighter, the health bar I should say, I think it's a little bit small. So I think I'm going to scale it up a little bit, make it twice as wide and 50% thicker, just to make it a little bit bigger. So I think that looks pretty good. And I want to add the shield back. I had taken the shield off during testing, and there's some things I'm going to have to do to fix some things with the shield. One of the things I know I'm going to have to do, the collision avoidance. These raycasts that I'm sending out from the probes are going to collide with the shield because they're going to be actually inside the shield. So what I'm going to probably have to do is add a layer mask field to the collision avoidance and just put the type of things I want the raycast to collide with. Some other things I want to do, I think my projectiles are going too fast to reliably hit the shield. So there's some things I'm going to want to do to the projectile. For instance, if I go into my weapons here, I'm going to want to change the collision detection to continuous. I think that will help. The other thing I'm going to want to do is on the shield itself, I'm going to want to add a rigid body, but I'm going to want it to be kinematic. Don't want it to use gravity. Should open up the script for the shield. And there's some things I'm going to want to change in here. So in our ship itself, the ship, as you recall, delegates the damage or lets the damage be handled by a damage handler. We're going to want to add a damage handler to the shield as well, which means we can get rid of this max health. We can get rid of this explosion prefab. I don't think I need any of that. I don't think I need health anymore. I won't need this. We won't have take damage. What we're going to end up having is we're going to subscribe to the events on the damage handler. So let me go ahead and add a damage handler. Oops. Put this outside the brackets. Damage handler. And we're going to have a public init method that will take the max health, or we'll call it our shield strength, and we will call the damage handler's init method, and we will pass in that shield strength as the max health. All right. And we're probably, before I do that, I want to subscribe to those events, because this method here is going to invoke the health changed event, and we're going to leverage that to draw our health bar, actually. And so I want to make sure that I've subscribed to those events so that our health is set accordingly. Let me come in here. Actually, the only thing we're going to do in here, let's say DamageHandler.healthChanged, add listener. We're going to call this on health changed. Okay. I'll create that method, and all we're going to do in here is call this flash and fade shields. Okay, that should take care of that. And then we're going to also want on object destroyed, and we're just going to call that destroy shields because we've already got that function there. The explosion will actually be instantiated by the damage handler, so we don't need that anymore. Okay, so I think I can get rid of this completely. So the shield class has gotten a little bit simpler. And we're not going to implement iDamageable in here anymore. Okay, cleaning up things. Things are looking a little bit better. Oh, we need to unsubscribe from these. We can actually put this in on enable, I think. There. Yes, I think that's good. So now our shield will have to be initialized by the ship controller. So let's add a serialized field to our ship controller. I'll put it up here above movement controls. And I probably should check to see if I have a shield before I actually try and dereference it. So down here where I'm doing all these initialize things, I think this is where I'm going to say if shield there, we will initialize it with our shield strength. Nice. We're probably also going to, on our shield, have a health bar. But let's not get to that yet. Okay, all of that looks pretty good, I think. Let's go into the editor. And let's look at our damage handler. Well, let's look at our shield first of all. We need to add a damage handler component to our shield. I'm going to move this rigid body up. And we've got our shield. We want to add component. Damage handler. And we want to drag the explosion prefab that we'll use a shield explosion prefab. Okay, that looks good. And then in our shield, for damage handler, we will drag damage handler. Good, I think that all looks good. Now in our shield, our ship, we need to actually add a shield. Okay, and then we will drag that into there. All right, let's give that a test. Oh, I've got 4 fighters out there. Only one of them has the shield. So something was not right. It looks to me like the ship took damage instead of the shield. So let me get rid of these extra fighters. And I want to tweak our ship data a little bit just for testing. Let's set the shield strength down to 500 and the max health down. We'll leave that at 1,000, right? And for testing purposes, we'll disable one of our blasters so we're only firing a single projectile at a time. All right. Yeah, and so it's hitting the fighter instead of the shield. Oh, I think I know what's wrong here. If we go to the shield, we need to put it on the enemy shield layer. Okay, let's give that a shot. I need to add a targeting reticle too so I can see where I'm shooting. All right, the ship is not taking damage, and the shield was. Now the shield is destroyed. Now the ship is starting to take damage. And I destroyed it. Perfect. All right. So I think we're still probably going to have the issue with the collision detection until I fix that. But I think before I do that, I want to add a targeting reticle. So I've gone up on itch.io and I've searched in their marketplace and found, and I'll put a link to this in the description, but I found these crosshair sprites and they're free, and I've downloaded them. And so I'm going to pull them into our project. We'll open that up there. And let's see, I've got to go to my downloads folder. And actually there's a whole lot of different, there's a black set, and there's 2 black sets and 2 white sets. And there's also 2 sets of, so those are individual PNGs, but there's also 2 sets of sprite sheets. And I'm just going to pull in the white sprite sheets. That's all I want. Go ahead and let Unity recognize those. We want to set them up as sprites. So we'll change the texture type to sprite 2D and UI. The sprite mode will be multiple. Pixels per unit is fine. All this stuff is fine. We do want alpha as transparency to be set. I'm just going to reduce the max size. I don't think they need to be that big. And we're going to need to go into the sprite editor. I think I'm going to have to, yes, I'm going to have to download the sprite package from the package manager. So if I go into the package manager and we want, yeah, I think we want Unity registry, search for sprite, 2D sprite. Yes, it has the sprite editor window. We'll install that. All right. So if we look at our sprite and click Sprite Editor, it brings this up. Now we're going to want to slice these into individual sprites. So let me go back and look at this. 10 by 10 tiles. Okay, so the sprite sheets are 10 by 10 tiles. So if I say slice grid by cell count, and we change this to be 10 by 10, yes. So you can see that gave us a nice sprite sheet. And you can see all the individual sprites in there. Let's do the same thing for this one. Sprite 2D, we'll change its size. We will apply that. Open up sprite editor for that, and we will say, did I not open that? Oh, we need to set this to be multiple. Now we can slice it. Okay. So now we've got both of our sprite sheets. We need to decide which reticle we want to use. So I'm opening this up. I kind of like that one, but not really. Let's look at the second sprite sheet. That's pretty cool. Maybe I'll use that one. Yes, I like that one. So let's go into our Escort Fighter Gray, which is our player ship. And I will say create empty target reticle. And we'll add a sprite renderer. And for our sprite, yes, we want that one. And make it red. Let's open this up in a scene view where we can see it. And maybe we'll go forward into the cockpit a little bit. I'm facing the wrong direction. Make this a little bit bigger. Put them out in front, maybe 5 units. And there he is. Let's switch over to our game view. Let's pick our cockpit camera. I think we need to raise it up some. Yeah, let's see. Switch back to our cockpit camera, solo that. Yes, that looks pretty good. Of course, now we got to see how the aim is. Let's jump into the game. That looks just about right. It's pretty big, though. Let's make it smaller. Of course, when I'm moving, the shots don't seem to be going where the reticle is. If I'm not moving, they look pretty good. Let's turn both blasters on. Yeah, I like that. That really lets help me see where I'm aiming. Alright, one thing I want to do is I want to have our blasters transfer our velocity and angular velocity to the projectiles. So I think that will make it feel more natural as we're chasing an enemy ship and we're banking and we're firing. If those projectiles pick up a little bit of our velocity and angular velocity from the ship as it's flying, that means we need to add a rigid body to our blaster. But we don't want the blaster itself to have a rigid body. Let's just say, I wonder if I should just pass it in. Let me go look at the parent ship real quick. We've got our blasters here. And we are calling init. So all we have to do is pass in our rigid body. So we will add a method to the blaster init, rigid body, and we should have already cached our rigid body in awake. All right, now we're currently not using our rigid body, so where do we want to use that? When we fire our projectile, now that's interesting, we could actually pass that in. Yeah, so all we need to do is say rigid body dot velocity equals velocity, rigid body dot angular velocity equals angular velocity. That will get initialized before we enable, which is when we add our actual launch force on the forward axis. That should translate sometimes. Okay. All right, so we are passing in our rigid body to the blaster. The blaster, in turn, is passing in our velocity and angular velocity when we shoot, and then the projectile assigns it to its own rigid body before we add the force. All right. That should work. Let's go into Unity and give it a test. It's kind of hard to tell, but at least this didn't break anything. All right, let's have a little fun. Let me just turn the shields off on this guy so the collision avoidance will work. And this target that has this random movement thing, I'm going to move my fighter up above. I'm going to move this target down below. I'm going to duplicate this a few times. And then I'm going to duplicate this a few times. And this guy is going to chase this guy. This guy is going to chase this guy. And this guy is going to chase that guy. Now let's just position these. All right, let's have some fun. Oh, got to turn our movement controls on. I gotta fix the orientation of those health bars. Alright, I blew him up. I gotta get some more ships on radar here. Where'd they all go? What's my radar range set to? Oh, no wonder. Boy, he's hard to hit. He's flying through those asteroids pretty good, though. Until I hit him. Alright, one down. There we go. Anyways, I something. Have a laser game up a little bit so I can start seeing better. Got him. Alright. There we go. Alright, one more. He's above me. To the right. There it is. Oh, awesome. You're mine. Alright, all four of them blown away. Okay, fix that collision avoidance. Got him. Alright. That radar really helps. Alright, one more. He's above me. To the right. There he is. Oh, awesome. You're mine. Alright, all four of them blown away. Okay, to fix that collision avoidance, let's get rid of these three guys. Open him up in the scene view. And let me turn his shield back on. And we go into his collision avoidance. Display raise is true. Let me turn off his movement controls. Hit play. I want to turn off maximize. Another thing I want to do, in my game manager, I want to be able to unlock the cursor and pause the game. So I actually am pausing the game here. If input.getKeyDown keycode.c, then I want to say cursor.visible equals not cursor.visible. So we will toggle the visibility of the cursor. And then what we're going to do here is say the lock state will be cursor.visible, cursor lock mode none, otherwise confined. So we will unlock the cursor and show it if I press the C key. It's just going to make it easier for me to test things. Okay, go back to the escort. Why am I not seeing the rays for the collision? Ah, because that's all turned off. All right, let's take a look at this. Because I got a feeling those probes are inside the shield, and I'm going to hit things on the side. So we're going to want to move this probe out. Let's do something like manually move it. That doesn't look bad. I think it might be a little far. Let me just do -8. Yeah, and then so then the one on the right will go to 8. Yeah, I think that. I think I should move it up a little bit. I wonder why I have them down so low. Maybe because of the wings. Yeah, they're down there because of the wings. That should be okay. All right, so that should at least keep them from having the shields brush up against things by moving the probe out a little bit. Now we need to handle the problem with it colliding with the shield and thinking it needs to avoid a collision. So we're going to have to add a layer mask. There we go. All right, and what do we want to do with that layer mask? Wherever we're doing our sphere cast or ray casts, so right here, we're going to want to do it there. Okay. I'm going to do it there. We're going to want to do it here. And we're going to want to do it here. All right, that should take care of it. Looks like I have something wrong. All right. Okay. Go back into the editor. The shield's enabled. AI movement control, everything is enabled. I need to stop playing and restart. And actually I want to maximize again. So let me stop again. Oh, I must have turned that on in the editor, so it didn't save it. I need to turn my play mode tint back on so I can tell when I'm in play mode. All right, there he goes. Ooh, destroyed the shields. Okay. All right, I think the next thing I want to do is add a health bar for the shields. So let's minimize this. Let's take our health bar. Yeah, let me go ahead and apply all these changes to our prefab. I'm going to duplicate the health bar, and I will call it shield health bar. I will change the foreground color to be blue. And then instead of using the damage handler from the fighter, I will use the damage handler from the shield. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and make this a child of the shield. And I'm not sure that's lined up. It isn't. Okay. So let's take a look at this one. Position Y2. It's because he's from the shield. Actually, let me unparent this. There we go. And I will just raise it up. Oops. I want to raise just that guy up. Yeah, that should be fine. And it is taking the shield's damage handler. All right. And I believe I had reduced our shield strength to something really low. So I'll make that 1,000. And I'll make the ship's max health to be 2,000. Let's give that a shot. Boom, shield's destroyed. All right, we don't have to finish blowing them up. Okay, I did see the progress bar go down, but just for a better test, I'm going to turn his movement off so I can just park right behind him and shoot him. Of course, as soon as I hit him, I'm going to send him flying. Ah, it's because I'm behind him, it looks backwards. But it is working. Oh, I need to disable it. Nah, that's something I definitely want to do. So let me go into that health bar script. So we are subscribing to the health changed event. We also want to add a listener for the object destroyed event, and we will call this disable health bar. Move that down there. And all we're going to do is say game object set active false. Okay. And then copy this and remove listener. And go back into the editor, hit play, and give that a test. Shield going down, shield going down, shield going down, down. Boom, and the progress bar is gone. Perfect. I do want to address the issue with the health bars not rotating to face the player correctly. But before I do that, it suddenly dawned on me that I never assigned the layer mask for the collision avoidance that we added. So it's set to nothing. We want them to avoid colliding with the player, other enemies, and asteroids. We don't want them to avoid collisions with enemy shields because they would think they're colliding with their own shield because the probes are inside the shield radius. So to test this out, we'll turn on their AI ship movement controls and just follow him around. I think that looked pretty good. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I do want to address the issue of the health bars not rotating toward the player. And to do that, I think I'm going to have to make some changes to my camera manager. The camera manager currently takes 3 game objects for our virtual cameras. So we have our cockpit camera. We have a follow camera and an enemy ship follow camera. But these game objects, their transforms don't ever actually move. And so what we need is a transform that the health bar can rotate to face, which means we want the actual virtual camera. So one thing I want to do is I want to rename these just to be a little bit more clear. Cockpit virtual camera. I'm just going to call this enemy virtual camera and follow virtual camera. And then we're going to go into our camera manager script and change these parameters here. So right now this is a list of game objects. We're going to make this a list of Cinemachine virtual cameras. Okay, and then I want to have a public transform active camera. And actually I want that to be a property, not a member variable. And I'll make that a public getter with a private setter. All right, and I want to have an event that we can fire whenever we change the active camera. We want to import the missing references, Unity Engine events. Okay, that all looks good. I don't think I need to change anything here. We want an awake method. And in awake, I want to instantiate that event. Okay. So this is all good. So most of the changes are going to be down here in the set active camera method. I'm going to rename this. This name is kind of confusing. I had this enumeration. This isn't really no camera. What I'm doing is in the update method, I'm checking to see if a key was pressed. And I'm basically looping through our cameras and checking basically to see if this index matches one of those enumerations. And one of those enumerations is no camera. Really, that should be no selection. In other words, they're not pressing a key. And so in here, since I'm calling this from update every frame, if I'm not pressing any keys, just return. That's basically, I just wanted that name to be less confusing. Now, instead of looping through game objects, we're going to loop through Cinemachine cameras. I'll just make that a var. And let me get rid of this for now. And what I want to do here, I want to say if our camera index, so let's actually add a variable here, virtual cameras cam index. And I'm going to set that to, I don't think I need that to cast that. I'm going to set that to virtual cameras dot cockpit camera, which is the first one. All right, and I'm going to say if our camera index, and I'm going to increment it, if that equals, and I'm going to change this to selected camera, selected camera. So the current virtual camera that I'm iterating through is the one that we're selecting. Then I want to set that camera to be active. Got to get its game object, set active, true. I want to set our active camera property to equal that camera's transform. And I want to fire our event that we added. Otherwise, oops, autocomplete, sometimes, I don't know if I just start typing the wrong thing and then autocomplete does the wrong thing, but I just want to deactivate the camera if it's not the one we're selecting. Alright, so if our selected camera is no selection, just return. Otherwise, starting at the cockpit camera, we're going to iterate through all our virtual cameras. If the one that we're currently on is the one that we selected, activate it, set it to our property, and fire the event, and increment this counter. So the next time through the loop, it'll be the next one. That all looks good. Now I'm going to have to make some changes to our HealthBar script to take advantage of that. I think instead of a camera here, I want a transform. And I'm going to rename this active camera. We're going to want to have a reference to our camera manager. So in here, in awake, I want to say camera manager equals find object of type camera manager. Okay. And I don't know that we want to update the health bar in awake. I'm going to change this to if not DamageHandler. Actually, I'm going to reverse this if. If we have a DamageHandler, because we're going to do some more stuff in here. So if we have a DamageHandler, we want to subscribe to the events on it. We want to set our active camera. We're going to grab our camera manager's active camera. And we want to subscribe to those events. And on camera changed would be a good name, I think. All right. And I will move that down to the bottom. Anything else I want to do on enable? I don't think so. And on disable, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to say if we have a DamageHandler, and then our camera manager, active camera change, remove listener on camera changed. Okay, so in late update, if we have an active camera, then we want our transform to look at our active camera. And I'll just clean up this, clean up this logic here a little bit. So if we don't have a damage handler or we don't have a health bar image, return. Yeah, I think that's probably fine. Update health bar should be fine. So what do we want to do in on camera changed? Basically, all we want to do is set our active camera to be the camera manager's active camera. Okay, I think that's all the script changes we need. Let's go back into the editor and let's go look at our health bars. Well, we're going to need to make changes to our camera manager for sure, as you can see here. Let's drag in our cockpit manager. Let's drag in our follow camera and our enemy camera. All right, that's cool. Now looking at our health bars. Doesn't look like we need to change anything in there. Oh, one thing I want to do, I want to make sure that since we're grabbing a reference to our camera manager from the health bar script, I want to make sure that the health bar script runs before the cameras. So I'm going to add, I want to make sure the camera manager script runs before the health bar script. So camera manager first, then health bar. Apply. All right. Give this a quick test. I don't see any console errors. Of course, I need to avoid flying into asteroids myself. Something doesn't look right. I see the shield script, and it looks like it's trying to rotate. Let's turn off his movement. No errors in the console. Okay, let's go into here, turn off his movement. I'm just going to fly around him. Oh, wow, his health went down, down, down all of a sudden. That seems to be a problem. Why would his health bar be going down, down, down? Oh, one thing I wanted to change too. If I shoot that shield, that's really interesting. If I shoot the shield, the damage is going the wrong direction on the health bar. So I want to go into the health bar prefab and into the foreground. I want to change the fill origin to right. All right, go back. So at least that's working right. But I really don't know why his health would be going down for no apparent reason. So that means, that seems to mean that the health changed event is getting fired by somebody. Let me see. Let's see what we get in the log from that. Get rid of this maximized for a few minutes. Take a look in our console. Huh. That's really interesting. Let me come over here. His fill amount is 0. That's really interesting. He's using the escort fighter's damage handler. His current health is 2,000, which is his max health. What would be causing that fill amount to change for no apparent reason? Must be happening in here. Target fill amount. All right, that looks good. It's not decreasing, and shields are going down. Shields destroyed. And the health bar on the ship is going down. It's rotating towards me. All right, I think we have resolved those issues. Well, I think that about wraps it up for today's video. We made some really good progress today. We got the radar working better. I fixed a couple of annoying bugs that were in there. We added the shields back to the enemy ship, and we fixed a possible bug that they would cause with the collision avoidance. We refactored my camera manager and improved the way the health bar works and made sure that it faces the player from whatever active camera you're using. And we added a health bar to the enemy shields. We also tweaked the player projectiles, and we add velocity and angular velocity to them to make it feel a little bit more natural when you're chasing an enemy around and shooting at it. So I'm not really sure where to take this for the next video. There's lots of ideas I have, of course. I could add some damage indication to the materials for the ship components. I could do some mesh deformation at the impact points where they take damage. I could work on the enemy AI to make them fire back and make it a little bit more interesting. And I'm not really sure what kind of game we want this to be. Do we want this to be just a dogfighting game where you fight waves of enemy ships and see how long you can survive? Or do we want to have some other kind of objectives or goals in it? Let me know what you think. I'm really interested, and just drop me a comment. I promise you I'll read your comments and I'll respond to them. And do me a favor, if you really find these videos useful and helpful, it would really help me a lot if you click that like and subscribe button. It really does help the YouTube algorithm to get my content in front of as many people as possible, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's totally free. And be sure to click that subscription notification bell so you can be notified the next time I post a video or go live. So thanks so much for tuning in and watching my videos, and good luck on your game development journey.